How's it going, my dudes? Welcome back to another video. So thanks to Pelixi, I'm able to get hold of some footage for the upcoming Lightcrest Serpent. If you do not know what the Lightcrest Serpent is, basically there are 6 D-Dragons on rotation. These are event bosses, and they basically act like your standard co-op boss with their own co-op boss shop as well. Now this boss drops on the 28th of December, so let's be a little bit more prepared when the day comes. This boss will be of light element, so let's take a look at his movesets. The first skill he uses is a buffing skill, and he grants himself with debuff immunity, all elemental resistance, attack power up, and final damage mitigation. Next up, he summons a shield wall that blocks your movement and absorbs damage. After a short delay, he summons crystals on the left and the right side of the map, and these crystals fire energy bullets across the screen, dealing minor damage. And soon after this, he summons the same few crystals at the top of the map, and these crystals fire the energy bullets downwards. And next up in his rotation, he summons homing energy balls. They track your units for a short period of time and it's very easy to get away from it. Then he summons diagonal crystals this time round, and the crystals now fire diagonally. And after a short pause, the boss summons the same wall skill on his left and right. He then uses the walls to his advantage by placing telegraphs on the left and the right side of the map. If you get caught by the wall and you're stuck in those areas, then be prepared to take a lot of damage. And after this, he uses one of his ultimate moves. So long as you do not break him on time, he then fires a lot of laser beams across the map. And after channeling for a period of time, he uses a very big laser beam, very reminiscent to the Shadow Flash Serpent days. And from here on, his moveset repeats. So we are going to skip that, and now we are going to take a look at what happens when you reach his 50% HP threshold. I'm not very sure whether this was timed perfectly, but he uses his second ultimate, which is a healing skill. He heals himself for 5 ticks of 100,000 HP before finally folding his wings in and preparing for a much bigger heal. So if you fail to break him during this time, he heals himself for 159,000 HP, and that could slow down your run a little bit, especially when you're taking on harder difficulties where the heal is a lot more powerful than that. And now that his 50% HP threshold is met, his entire moveset is now powered up. Now his crystal attacks are a little bit more empowered, so for the first set, he summons crystals on his left and his right. But this time around, the crystals are shooting a little bit more, and this is a very similar trend to all his abilities. Next up, he deploys crystals around his body that fires off in multiple directions. And he quickly follows up with his first ultimate move, and this time around, he is highly dangerous. If you do not break him on time, he's going to fire laser beams in all directions 3 different times. And as usual, he ends it off with a Mega Kamehameha, dealing a tremendous amount of damage for a very long period of time. So like I said before, this is just a major power wall. As long as you can tank, you can spank. His homing energy balls are now empowered even more. This time, instead of 5 energy balls, he fires upwards of 20. And they seem to track for a longer period of time. Soon after, he follows up with the diagonal crystals. We have seen the exact same one before, but he follows up by deploying the left and right wall, and then comboing into a telegraph attack, which is now slightly more enhanced, targeting even closer to your flippers this time around. This is probably going to be his more devastating attacks. So these are pretty much all the skills that he has. I think a great way to counter him is to bring a lot of AoE, to break down his walls, and to target all his weak points, which is just all around his body. So running teams like Belcidia is going to be very helpful, and if you do not have a Belcidia, Marianne does the same thing as well. Otherwise, you can always use units like Jalil, who has been rather more popular in recent times. Now let's take a look at the time-limited armament in the boss shop. So here's the 5-star Light Beam Dragon Bow. I believe the name will be slightly different, but here are the stats. HP 651, attack 180. With the weapon skill, when self recovers HP, own skill damage plus 10% up to 200%. And when battle begins, light character skill gauge plus 20%. Self immunity to attack down debuff. This bow has been touted to be one of the better bows for Arc EX. And this is very clear why. So if you're using Razel and Corina as a combo, you're definitely going to recover a lot of HP, and therefore you're going to build a lot of skill damage very fast. And the second ability of this bow allows you to use a more different lineup. So previously we are running with a lot of Suzu comps, but now we may not need to have Suzu. We can run with a complete mono light team, and that could actually improve on our run times. And also, let's not forget that you have self-immunity to attack down debuff, so you're not going to ever be afflicted by the Arc of Curse boss's attack down debuff. So that's pretty neat, but let's take a look at the 4-star armament over here. So this is slightly different to the previous armaments where the 4-star variation is just a weaker version of the 5-star. So let's take a look at Light Beam Dragon Shield. HP 583 and attack 104. Weapon skill, when self recovers HP, own skill damage plus 6%, pretty similar, caps out at 120%. And when battle begins, light character skill gauge plus 15%, also very similar. However, the third ability, self-immunity to dark resistance down debuff. This is not self-immunity to attack down debuff. So it is slightly more different in that sense. However, this armament is still going to be very useful for Arcus EX, especially if you're going to be running a Result without running a Corina. So let's say maybe you want to opt for more DPS, maybe you want to run a Rolf for example, and you don't really have a lot of room except to remove your other support, which is going to be a Corina. So you don't really need to worry about Dark Resistance down debuff anymore, because with this armament, you're going to be okay. Your Result is going to be very tanky, and your Result is not going to die that often. So all in all, the armaments from this boss shop is going to be very useful, and I don't think it just stops at Arcus EX. I'm very sure it has a lot of value because number 1, there is skill gauge boosting over here, and number 2, there is skill damage boosting up to 200%, which is very big. This is basically a Whitetails X on drugs. And not only that, you don't have to use this armament on a light type unit. Yes, the cores only fit on light type units, but you can absolutely use this on your fire units as well. So if you're running some healers on, let's say, your Clarice team, then this armament also has a lot of potential. You're no longer needed to run Suzu mains. So with that said, that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, it really helps the channel. Subscribe for more World Flipper content. This has been free to play by the way, and as always, I will see you in the next video.